All right, good afternoon, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe. Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here, Councilmember Gruber is on his way here, and he will resume chairing the meeting upon his arrival. We do have a presentation this month to the committee focused on the agreement with MVP Select Care that will be related to introductory number 442. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the administration. I believe Alicia will be leading us in the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity for us to present a summary of the changes and enhancements with the MVP Healthcare. I am Dr. Rose Nichols, the Director of the Department of Human Resource Management, and I have with me today Alicia Cardinalo Viscardi, who is our Benefits Manager. What we would like to do is go through the document that we presented to you. You should all have a copy in front of you. And then after we go through that, if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. So again, thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to have Alicia start us off.
Okay, I'm going to start with the pharmacy cost saving measures. Utilizing the City of Rochester's prescription drug, the use of GLP-1s for type 2 diabetes and weight loss were significantly increasing cost. The rise of the usage of Wegovy and Zepbound for weight loss was causing a drastic rise in the overall annual cost. In partnership with MVP, the City of Rochester has put in place a requirement for prior authorization for documented diagnosis of diabetes, saving the city over $300,000, and the elimination of GLP-1s for weight loss effective January 1, 2025. The cost avoidance is $2 million annually.
The second enhancement has to do with the Care Advantage Medical Management Program. We're continuing to focus on increasing member engagement, and we're stepping up the outreach taking place in 2025 through what is called the Care Advantage Medical Management Program. 45% of the identified population will be reached out to, and that outreach will be across the continuum of care, particularly for high risk and rising risk cases, including focusing on diabetes, respiratory ailments such as COPD, cardiovascular disease, heart failure, and musculoskeletal issues, which are the predominant issues that we see through the members that are part of MVP.
The next enhancement is doing the Wellbeing Rewards program. A positive change is coming to the existing Wellbeing Rewards program based on member feedback. Now members can continue to use the connected component of the program if they choose, but now it is not required to earn the full $600. Additionally, some core City of Rochester wellness programs will be added to the activity tracking to reinforce attendance and allow those engaged in the wellness program to earn points to get them closer to earning their full $600. $400 will now be earnable and $200 reimbursable. Next, we will be implementing a auto redemption into the Wellbeing Rewards program. The auto redemption will take place for subscribers that earned, but they never went into the MVP website to redeem the dollars at the year end. The current program is set up that you forfeit the dollars if they are not redeemed by the employee. In quarter one, members will now receive a reimbursement for any points earned but not redeemed.
We also have a new landing page. We're implementing a custom, what they call a microsite for the City of Rochester employees. And this website will have a unique URL. It'll be customized to or for the city employees, and they can use that to learn more about their benefits and all the features in the plan.
The financial summary, the benefits through a consultant conducted an RFP for a TPA. The third-party administrative services for medical, PBM, and services for RX. MVP, as a finalist of this process, resulted in improvements to the financials over 3 years. Total cost avoidance of the plan savings equals $1,356 and $1,356.66. The breakdown of the savings is shown in the chart below. In spite of the reduction in the fixed cost, the offset below trend given by New York State wage index, hospital reimbursement, RX increases, and specialty trends in the GPL1s is seeing for the first time in the double digit of a 12.5 rate increase for 2025.
So are there any questions? Councilmember,
So Councilmember Patterson.
Well, more concerns than questions. So, first, a little disclosure. I am a type 2 diabetic, and I have been for 12, 14 years. I don't know. One of the things that has helped me, the greatest thing that helped me significantly in managing my diabetes has been a continuous glucose monitor. The next thing has been a Jardiance-like substance that helps your body pass additional glucose. And the last thing I have decided to use and am currently using is GP1. I'm using Ozempic. It is a wonderful tool for helping to lower and solidify your blood glucose numbers. And a side effect of that is that you just don't really eat anymore, so you lose weight. That wasn't the goal, but it works. I lost approximately 80 pounds prior to using the GP1. I'm taking it now, and I've lost like another 20 pounds. I say all of that to say, I understand, and the GP1 is probably the most expensive tool that I'm using. I say all of that to say, I understand the reluctance to fund the cost of this drug for weight loss, but at the same time, I have a grave concern with the generality of the statement of weight loss. It has been shown time and time again that weight is a comorbidity, especially in Black and brown communities. So to simply say it's expensive and we're not going to use it with our workforce that is aging, quite frankly, and with weight being a comorbidity and something that ties deeply into heart disease and all of these other resources, are you drawing this distinction a little bit more around weight loss as opposed to, because you're saying, okay, well, you can access the GP1 if you have the diabetes designation. That's great, wonderful, don't change a thing. But what if you are morbidly obese, which is not a hard thing to be in the food environment that so many Americans live in, which sets you up to become diabetic? You know, I mean, I get it, prevention, pound a cure, but when you're paying for the prevention, it's kind of expensive. Are you looking at a little bit more distinction in those limitations? Because I am gravely concerned about what the impact of this would be for our folks out here. You might, because if you're not diabetic, you can't access this tool, but then you become diabetic and you can, but now you've got all of these heightened risk factors. Can you kind of explain the thinking and and where we're going with this? I understand the cost, I get that, but
Yeah, so Councilmember, appreciate the question and the concern. I think to do the question justice in the form of a response makes sense to respond in writing, give some context around how the decision was made, by whom. I can tell you that all of our healthcare decisions are made by a joint committee of management and union leadership. To give you some context around how we got to that decision, and also what our benefits consultant has seen with other clients that they have in this space, to make sure that you feel as if we considered the appropriate things, or at least have context around what we did consider.
Yeah, because I could understand the notion that, we don't want folks taking advantage of this tool for cosmetic purposes, specifically and particularly, but for our workforce, depending on where you are and what you're doing, if you are, and I'm using the BMI definition of morbidly obese, if you are morbidly obese, and we got all kinds of problems and issues with BMI and all that nice fun stuff, but it puts you at a great risk for heightened costs for the city of Rochester, And for the folks in my community that I interact with who have full-blown untreated diabetes and are losing feeling in their fingers, their hands, they're going blind, they're losing their feet, they're losing parts, it's a horrible way to die. If there was, and I understand this isn't our job, but the acceptance of this tool, I just want to make sure that we are very careful in looking out for our employees and their needs as it relates to this particular tool. And like I said, this is just one of the 3 tools, 4 actually. The other one is, diet and exercise. That's 1, 2, whatever. But this has definitely been a tool that's been great, and I'm happy to see that we're using it for the diabetics, because it goes a long way towards assisting and helping someone control their glucose. But I'm just very concerned about the new limitation being imposed, even though I understand there's significant cost savings.
Is this 442?
It's the MVP.
And this wouldn't, and this one in particular wouldn't just for I know I'm just walking in. I know the deputy mayor may have already said this, but this wouldn't be before you unless it was vetted with those folks representing employees.
Oh yes.
So this goes through Labor Healthcare Management Committee, I believe, which is a group of labor and management, which means all the employees are represented at the table for this. So this was considered very carefully before we made this decision, and it wouldn't be here if labor would have had challenges with it. So
yeah, thanks.
Just want to make that clear.
Councilmember Patterson had a particular question, which I'm happy to have Deputy Mayor Burns put some muscle into the answer there. But it's a reasonable conversation, and as these drugs continue to improve, I'm certain that insurance will also change over time. So it'd be great to have that conversation for now.
Yeah.
Vice President Harris.
I'd just like to add, that I agree with Councilmember Patterson, and just to ask the administration, does the MVP coverage for the 2025 cover bariatric surgery, because that's a very expensive procedure as well, and folks who may be eligible for the weight loss drug may have to look at, do I do that versus that? And bariatric surgery has consequences, and that's life-threatening consequences for some folks. And the weight loss drug is a less invasive opportunity for them to reduce their chances of being exposed to comorbid factors like stroke and heart disease. So just something to think about. And I know that it's costly. Just want you guys to think about the long-term savings, because if someone is losing weight, that's less likely for them to be in the hospital for heart disease, stroke, and all the other stuff later.
Councilmember Monroe.
So MVP I've found problematic, and this has been through the duration of the time that it's been the one of the providers for the city. The mental health coverage is terrible. Most mental health counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists do not accept MVP because it has a bad reputation. I don't know if that's because it's lower reimbursement or what, but the fact of the matter is that MVP does not cover the majority of mental health services in the city, in the county, and I think that really needs to be looked at and considered for future contracts. We all know how important mental health is, and finally we're getting a much more focused lens on just how important it is. So, creating barriers for people who are trying to get help just isn't a good thing. Thanks.
Yeah, and we can look into that. And if you have any specific examples that you can give Director Nichols that we can follow up on, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councilmember Martin.
Do you have a list of providers that currently, mental health providers that currently do accept MVP insurance? And if so, could you send it to us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, we could ask for that and find out.
Awesome. And the Labor Healthcare Management Committee, and this can be in writing, just who was involved. I know you mentioned the makeup, but I'm interested in knowing who actually is part of that decision-making committee, how they're selected, and what their assigned charges.
We can give you that. Right.
We can provide that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry for being late myself. Thanks for the presentation. Only one question from me, which is just helping me understand this last bullet. So it looks like the fees have gone down and there's savings, but it also says there's a 12.5% rate increase. So how do I square those two things? If there's a 12.5% rate increase and we're still encumbering most of the costs ourselves as the city, how do we see savings then?
Yeah, so we'll respond in writing, kind of walk you through how that is determined.
Okay. I'd appreciate that. I will say that one of the reasons why I asked for this presentation now specifically is because although you certainly heard, I don't think there's ever going to be a health insurance plan that everybody feels is hitting everyone's needs all the time. I think that the health insurance the city provides is one of the most incredible things about being an employee here.
It's not only one of the most incredible, it's the best in the county, probably one of the best in the country. And I mean, there's very few places that somebody can go and get a health insurance program like that.
Absolutely. And I wanted us to be able to hear about it, talk about it, see the changes this year. But big kudos to the HR team and the whole committee that worked to get this new plan in order, because I'm sure there's still going to be wonderful benefits for the employees of the city of Rochester. Any further questions before we move on to legislative business? Councilmember Lubian?
I just wanted to comment that I noticed that the $1,000 contribution to the FSA is back, and just wanted to say I'm happy to see that.
Yep, it continues for another year, and we continue to evaluate each year the ability to do it, but I know I've yet to hear anyone express disappointment at that. So,
President Melendez, did you call roll when we started?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay, so let the record show now that every member of council is here, and we will move right into the legislative business of the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee, and we'll start with introductory number 441, a local law extending the residential commercial urban exemption program. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion. It's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 442, authorizing an agreement with MVP Select Care Incorporated for health insurance administration services. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move it.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Introductory number 448, appropriating American Rescue Plan Act funds related to fire specialty equipment. I did see, I believe Dassey sent around an email earlier today with some of the links of some of the equipment that's going to be used, so appreciate the quick work on that. Any questions that people may have about this introductory? Councilmember Martin?
Yes, could you in writing provide an itemized breakdown to just show the specific items purchased and the cost associated with them?
I believe that's what Dassey had sent earlier. Dassey, was it that level of detail? Okay, so Councilmember, you're asking for the dollar amount attributed to each item.
Thank you.
Is that doable? Okay. Any Council Vice President?
Just a comment. I just want to say thank you to the administration for providing the detailed pictures of the itemized items that the fire department will be purchasing. It's appreciative.
I would just note that these are ARPA dollars that we need to get spent by December 31st, and so this will get us closer to that.
Any further questions about this introductory? If not, I'll take a motion. It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with no further business, that concludes the Budget, Finance, and Governance Committee.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Just grabbing everybody's attention. God bless you all. Praying that everyone is well and your families are well. Just kind of gathering our thoughts to get ready to start our Public Safety Committee meeting. Before I even go into calling the clerk, I'm sure this has already been done, but I have not done it, so I'm going to do it myself. And since this is public safety, I think it's even more appropriate. I'm so glad to see our clerk back with us today.
Thank you.
So glad to see Hazel back with us. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilmember Lightfoot.
Present, ma'am.
Councilmember Gruber. Here. Councilmember Lupien.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith. Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
Of course, as you know, since we're starting the meeting, we did not have any presentations this month. So grateful for it's been a busy month though, and I want to last month, of course, I want to thank everyone. I'm gonna do this in the beginning, so I'll do it in the end. Everyone for the participation in our first annual Youth in Crisis Conference. Hats off to everyone. Mayor, I don't know if you saw the video yet, but did you see the video? At the end of the video, it is posted on our Rock Against Gun Violence Coalition Instagram page, and I'll send it to you personally. But it's a highlight video, and at the end, you have comments at the end of that video, so I'll make sure that you get a copy of that. We're tweaking a few things in there. There's a couple name typos that we're fixing, but we will update that and get that taken care of. But I want to say thank you to everybody. It was a huge success. I know Mr. Parent is not here, but I truly wanted to thank the mayor, the administration, and Mr. Parent because we had a bit of a scare. we had a scare in the beginning of the morning because the street was closed. They were moving logs, and there were yellow tape all around the building, which made it look like there was something happening there. And we think that would have deterred people from attending the conference. So a phone call to Mr. Perrin, and I know he's retiring soon, or moving on, I would say. But I really thank him for his service because that was a Saturday. Got him up on a Saturday morning. He answered his phone. He went to work. He served. And that was great because the event was a huge success. So thank you, Mayor, thank you, administration. Chief, Fire Chief was there. Many of RPD everybody came in and supported. And thank you, City Council, for all your support. Hats off to every last one of you. I think we had 7 out of the 9 council members attend the event. And I appreciate all of you for your service and dedication to our young people. And to staff, God bless you, because we could not have done it without the great, amazing staff that we have at City Council. In public safety being led by Dassey. All right.
Shout out to, whoa, that was really loud. Shout out to Councilmember Lightfoot and Vice President Harris and everyone else who had a hand in putting that on. It really was a remarkable event.
Yes. All right, let's go to business here. So introduction number 443, authorizing an agreement for fiscal year 24 technology and equipment program. Any questions, comments, and or concerns? Councilmember Patterson, I'm sorry, and then Councilmember Lupien.
Well, one, I'd just like to commend the administration for getting a grant to fund ShotSpotter for another year here in Rochester. And I also want to commend the administration for having this resource available in our community. Many instances when we hear about gun violence in our city and we find out that someone has been struck by gun violence, in many of those instances, it was ShotSpotter that made the notification that allowed RPD to get there to then bring in the assistance that individual needed to preserve their life in many instances. So I just wanted to commend you for that, and also see if we can just get a little information on how do we get this money from the feds, and how much more do they have?
I'll say this was, I believe, this is one of a member item. This is a member item, right? This one that is top funding. Yeah. This was I'm looking at you, Chief of Staff. This was a member item, right, from Morelli. Yeah, so, I'm sorry, earmark. So we got this as a earmark request.
Okay.
Which we're happy to get, and we should take this because I don't know how much more we'll be getting. But this was an earmark request that we got. We have made it intentional to try to get as much grant money as you know for operations of the city, and this was a result of that.
Well, we certainly want to commend Representative Morelli for his support of our community by bringing these resources to bear. Thank you.
Councilmember Lupien and Vice President Harris.
Yeah, I know that there have been other cities that have had issues with ShotSpotter and actually ended their contracts. And it was around maybe how the data was used or false data. And I know that our own, was it Simmons? I can't remember the exact case, but where he was wrongly accused of, I'm really blanking, I should know the details of this, but basically that the ShotSpotter was used to justify his wrongful shooting, and it was proven later that ShotSpotter gave a wrong number of gunshots that went off to try to justify the officer's wrongful recollection of the event. And there was a big expose in DNC a couple of years ago on it. So I want to understand, do we have any data on, where it could have maybe had inaccurate information, or how we've used the data, not just in terms of like understanding where there have been shots, and I understand too, other noises can trigger it, but how we're using the data in our cases that are brought to the city of Rochester.
Yeah, we can give you something in writing, because I will tell you, at first I was a ShotSpotter skeptic.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that 9 times out of 10, where I've seen ShotSpotter actually be effective, is not so much as apprehending. I mean, it is helpful if you're able to do that. But when a person is shot and they're left on the scene alone, then somebody's there immediately to get there with it after the shot has been fired, and they've been able to apply a tourniquet and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a policy that we have related to ShotSpotter, so we can provide that detail to you.
Mm-hmm.
This particular case that you're talking about, it
So
vaguely
Sylvan
rings a bell,
Simmons,
but
I
I
think,
do
yeah.
remember that case.
Yeah.
Vaguely, but I know it was before, prior to me, but it rings a bell. I think I know what you're talking about. But we can talk about, the chief can provide information on, and we can do this in writing, on what I would call where maybe if it was a firework or something, and how we respond to that. But in terms of using it as a way to falsely accuse someone, I think that's something we
Well, I wouldn't
avoid.
like, maybe that has more intent, but like, it has been shown to be faulty. And in that case that, the DNC did the article on, the officer said that there was return fire when there wasn't, and the ShotSpotter was used to try to prove that when ultimately it was found to be inaccurate.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, and again, I don't want to speak to this particular case, but I'm wondering if ShotSpotter was used as an excuse. So was it ShotSpotter, or was it the individual that was using ShotSpotter as a?
Well, I think they work in tandem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I know I'm talking about this without you guys having the
Right.
details in front of you, but I want to get some kind of understanding how we're using the data.
I think that's what we could provide in writing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because there are tons of ways that you can use it, particularly in terms of mapping where gunfire incidences are happening. So you might want to deploy resources, either violence prevention resources as well as other community resources to respond to where that gunfire is. But it also allows us to see and celebrate where we see a decline in gunfire as well.
Council Vice President Harris.
Thank you. Chair Lightfoot, I just got a quick question. You can provide it in writing, and just wanted to know, when was the last time, was the software upgraded? Does this subscription that we're getting include an upgrade as well to the ShotSpotter?
Good question. Does this include an upgrade, Chief? But again, we can get this in writing on what exactly. I think this is just paying for it for what we already have, correct?
Yeah, this is for our subscription, but they do constantly upgrade it. I can find out when the last ones were done and get it in writing, but it's a ever-evolving process.
And then my follow-up is that, I'm not really sure if there's any additional bells and whistles that comes with the software, and if so, do we have the Cadillac or whatever the maximum program of the software? You can put that in writing.
Yeah, we can put that in writing. And I just want to give another quick example, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. If you don't mind, I just want to give one quick example.
Sure.
So it's funny, like, so Council Member Lupien, your question was about the data and how we can use it. It can be used in a good way because, you often hear people say, oh, crime is all over the place. We actually can use ShotSpotter to show how gunfire incidences are actually decreasing in the city. So in September of 2023, there were 243 gunfire incidences, and that's not people being shot, but, maybe shots being fired, people shooting off guns. And then in September in 2024, there were 141, which is a decrease of 41%, which is down. We can also use the data to see peak hours on when gunshots are happening. So we can give you all that in writing, but I just wanted to provide some of that in terms of some of the data that we get.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Were you done, Vice President?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Martin.
Thank you. So in alignment with what Councilmember Lupien shared, there have been a lot of studies about ShotSpotter, a lot of work done by the American Civil Liberties Union, and a study in 2021 showed that in Chicago, 89% of ShotSpotter alerts did not lead police to finding evidence of gun-related crimes, and 86% didn't lead to any report of any crime at all. It also found that often the sensors were triggered by cars backfiring, fireworks, or other loud sounds. And it also found that there were more than 40,000 dead-end ShotSpotter deployments in Chicago at the time. They find that it's a waste of time just deploying officers due to faulty alerts by ShotSpotter. It also found that these ShotSpotter alerts are usually placed in neighborhoods that are predominantly black, brown, low income, and keeps neighbors on high alert due to the frequency of police coming in and out of those communities based on a lot of the time faulty alerts. So for those reasons alone, and just in alignment with the data and the racial justice issues around ShotSpotter, and the faulty equipment in our communities, I'll be voting no.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, Council President Miguel Melendez?
Yes, just one quick question related to medical deployments. Could we get a sense of when ShotSpotter is activated, how many times an ambulance might respond to a call? Is that data we are tracking? Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Now we vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
No.
All right. Can we get a roll call? Absolutely. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gruber? Yes. Councilmember Lightfoot?
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien?
Not at this time.
Councilmember Martin?
No.
Councilmember Monroe?
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Vice President Harris?
Yes.
President Melendez?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Introductory number 444, authorizing an agreement for a 3-year strategic plan for the Police Accountability Board. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Mr. President.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Had a chance to sit down with Dr. Myers Small earlier this week and kind of go over, at least at a very high level, some of what is being proposed here. I know that there's been some recent challenges and controversy that are unrelated but somewhat related to the future of PAB. At this time, I'm comfortable moving forward in terms of this piece of legislation, but I do have some colleagues that have raised some concerns about holding it till we understand what is going on with this court case that is being thrown our way at this point. So I offer that for consideration, but I want to see if there's any other comments and discussion on the item.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the conversation. We did talk briefly before the meeting. I personally would like to move this item, but I want to have conversation and discussion. So I'm opening the floor to hear that conversation and discussion. I'd love to entertain that. So at this time, we'll entertain any conversations. I'll start from my left, and we'll move down the DS and have started with Dr. Gruber.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess this is a question for law, probably. So I certainly have no problem with approving a plan for the PAB to do some strategic planning. And I'm certainly happy, and I'm certainly expecting to continue to fight for the existence of the PAB. That's my vantage point. But I also understand that there is currently an attempt to buy the Locust Club, from what we read about in the papers, for the PAB to not exist. Right? Is that a fair is that a fair understanding of what they're trying to do here?
I wouldn't say it's an attempt to make the PAB not exist. My reading of the lawsuit is that their argument is that the PAB is doing things currently that are not expressly set forth in the charter, and that they really only should be doing what the charter says. I take no position as to
I'm not asking you to take a position,
claims,
but essentially, so if the Locust Club were to win, which I don't even understand timeline, all it would do is skinny the PAB's scope.
Correct. If they got all the relief they were asking for, it would basically say, PAB, all you can do is expressly what's in the charter that hasn't been invalidated by the courts.
Okay. Well, then I will turn my second question over to the director. Hello. So given what the current lawsuit is, and the reality this is a 3-year strategic plan, I have not seen what the contract looks like, but does the contract provide you the flexibility to alter and amend what you're working on with Breakthrough Consulting if, in fact, your reality changes?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It does. It does. We've had conversations with the consultant, and there is considerable flexibility.
Okay. You feel comfortable about that from like a contractual perspective too?
I do.
Okay. All right. No further questions for me.
Council Vice President Harris.
No questions.
My question would be to the administration, maybe even to legal. I guess my concern as a council member and as chair of public safety was that this kind of just came across as far as the lawsuit. When was the city aware of this lawsuit?
Last Friday, we got served.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I would just offer for consideration, Mr. Mayor, that, these types of things could warrant a conversation with council. As soon as, especially when we know we're going directly into conducting business and there's PAB business on the docket, it would have just been helpful not to have gotten this before I came to the meeting, because that's when I just found out about the lawsuit.
Oh no, I found out about it Monday, and I forwarded it to the council president as soon as I got it Monday.
Okay.
So yes,
So
as soon as we got it, we forwarded it on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I was out of the office until Monday. So.
Gotcha.
So really Monday is when we found out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can also.
We got it, we forwarded it.
And I can also own that part of it in terms of by the time I got it, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and then I know that the article was out there pretty quickly. So I've been enamored with other things, but I could have definitely informed council at that point. So
Yeah,
that,
just
my
drawing
apologies
our,
on that one.
Just drawing our attention to it, because I didn't. The news was so inundated with election stuff that I wasn't watching it, so I missed that. But nonetheless, that was my only thought process in it all. Councilmember Lupien, thank you.
To that point, I understand that there are certain topics that you might want to discuss only with the council president, but for things like that, it feels like an unnecessary bottleneck to put it into the inbox of the president for him to then forward on to us. And is there a reason that we couldn't, for some of these things, like event invitations or like awareness, that we could just email all of council directly?
I don't know. I'll leave it to council. What I do is I speak directly to the council president. I call the council president, and that's the process I use, and that's what I will continue to use. And then if there's a different process, I would recommend you have that conversation with council.
I am right now.
I would absolutely appreciate that in terms of I don't want to be the bottleneck.
Right.
And with this week, with the election and everything else, you just got lost in the sauce. But I think that when it comes to matters like this pertaining to the PAB, certainly the mayor and I can have a discussion. But I think when it comes to sharing with all of council from the law department, it would be helpful if it went directly to everyone.
I agree.
Thank you. The other question I have is not about the lawsuit, but about the public safety update. I noticed that there's kind of like 3 items that get asked of all of the public safety facing departments. 1, are there any current events or information that's relevant to the department that council should be aware of? 2, any upcoming department related community events, and 3, any recruitment retention updates. And 2 and 3 say NA, and I just wondered if that was an oversight, or if you do have any updates for those 2 items, if you could give it to us in writing.
Actually, I spoke with President Melendez, and you will be getting a monthly council report.
Lovely.
I just finished it up today.
That's great.
And just need to proof it, but it includes everything from hiring, staffing, community updates, professional development and learning, participation in the Police Citizens Academy, all of those things. So
That's
we'll get
wonderful.
that about a week after the month ends.
Great. Thank you.
Council President. Okay. Councilman Martin.
Council President Melendez, I do really appreciate you taking accountability and removing the bottleneck and making it easier for us all to receive information. So thank you for that. So I fully support the strategic plan. Looking at the vendor you selected, I appreciate that they are reaching out to National Police Accountability Project with very significant expertise in this field. So I fully support. I also appreciate how transparent the information you shared was. It had all the details one could even ask for. So I don't have any questions, just my full support and gratitude for you continuing to move forward and be transparent with all you're doing with council. I do have a question for Beeth and maybe President Melendez in relation to this upcoming lawsuit. So what will be your role in the litigation, Patrick?
I won't have one, nor will my office. So we're getting outside counsel now, recognizing that there's a potential for conflict, and as soon as we have somebody on board, we'll let you know.
So whose interests would outside counsel be representing? Because I do have concerns. You know, the statement that you released from Corporation Counsel is deeply in line with what is being litigated over. So I think there may be an issue with Corporation Counsel, with outside counsel working directly with you versus counsel and the PAB.
So the outside counsel won't be working directly with me. This will be a total handoff. They will consult with the main clients, which in this case would be City Council, PAB, RPD.
Mm-hmm.
In my preliminary discussions with potential attorneys to take this, I flagged the fact that as they are representing the city, they may find that internal conflicts arise, and if that is the case, then they should let me know, and we will commence the process to find additional conflict counsel if necessary.
So why would you be responsible for finding the outside counsel versus council president finding outside counsel to represent council and the PAB? Why would that be your role if you say you have no role?
Because I'm the corporation counsel, so it's my role to represent the city, and that means finding conflict counsel, capable conflict counsel. This is not a representative for city council per se. This is a representative of the city that would stand in my place, but not be interacting with me on the merits of the suit.
So I guess when the issue arose where Chelly defended council and the city regarding the Locust Club litigation around disciplinary power, the outside counsel was selected by council and represented the city. So
no, Chelly never represented the city.
Chelly represented council, you're saying?
Council only. The law department in the second phase of that lawsuit determined that we could not, based on legal ethics, represent the city because we didn't believe there was a good faith basis in law to maintain some of the arguments that were maintained. So the city was not ultimately part of the lawsuit once it went up on appeal. Chelly represented just city council.
And the city had their own attorney?
Initially, the city was in the suit at the trial level because there was a pre-referendum challenge that the court, we believed, inhibited the mayor's authority in the way they handled that. So we were representing the city and Shelley represented council separately. But when the matter went up on appeal, the city did not take the appeal. We basically sat out the rest of it.
Right. Thank you. And I do think just, and last thing, Patrick, I really appreciate how forthcoming and all your responses to my questions. And you're saying the outside counsel you're seeking is going to be representing the city/PAB and also RPD.
The outside counsel will be representing the city. The entity that's being represented is the city, which would include all of the city's departments. The main points of contact will be city council, PAB, RPD. If outside counsel finds that there's a conflict between those departments in the representation, then I have instructed that they come back so that we can retain separate counsel for that.
Right.
And at that point, if the separate counsel is going to be counsel to city council, we would obviously have a conversation about nuts and bolts of how that gets selected.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just looking at the writing on the wall, I do anticipate a conflict in our interest, in the interest of RPD, in the interest of council/PAB. So President Melendez, I think this is something maybe we as a body should find time to meet about and discuss, because effectively what happens if, if the Locust Club gets the remedies they're asking for, it'll strip PAB of such essential powers, rendering them unable to do what they are charged to do. This is significant. This is a big deal. And historically, when our community has fought for a police accountability, the Locust Club has waged war on our community, and it's happening again. So I think it's so important that we get together. I hear one thing we have in common is we all want to see a functional PAB. And I think it's important that we talk about how we ensure that we defend that institution, which we're all interested in seeing.
Can I say this to the corporate counsel? Is this a situation in where there was previous lawsuits that we've had where this council had to appoint a couple of people to receive all legal documents in that process? There were two people appointed. I think, Mike, you were one of them, that were appointed during a particular legal procedure where counsel was involved. And we had to, I just want to put that in there to research or to give us an answer. Is this one of those type of situations?
I don't expect it will be. I think
Okay.
the situation you're talking about is and it gets confusing because Andy Celli handled two separate matters, right?
Right.
The internal investigation that was done into the handling of the Daniel Prude information,
Yes.
in that case, there was an ad hoc council committee of 2 members, I
That's
believe.
right. That's correct.
That were kind of point for handling those issues.
Mhm.
Celli's representation of counsel in the context of the Locust Club suit concerning PAB disciplinary powers, that wasn't an element. So I don't expect that to be an element here.
Okay. Wonderful. Mary, was your answer? Okay. Councilman Monroe.
I have some questions, obviously. So as we're talking about reimagining public safety, what's the scope of that?
Can you talk
Well,
a little bit deeper?
Okay, so I'm wondering how you'll overcome the difficulties of possibly not having leadership from RPD join in on this, and how then you will work on being able to reimagine public safety if we end up in that situation where we don't have the police at the table.
I actually feel confident that we will. We met yesterday, and I feel very hopeful for the outcome of that meeting. I'll be meeting with the chief monthly, either beginning this month or next month, so we'll be having conversations, so I'm very hopeful and confident.
Okay, great, because I know certainly the chief has expressed in the past that he really wants to work towards community policing and improving community relations. For the company Breakthrough, I noticed that they currently have 3 projects with the city, and I'm just wondering if you feel comfortable that they have the bandwidth to take on another large project like this.
I do. Again, we had extensive conversations and back and forth to ensure that they would be able to handle the scope of this. This is a critically important project for the Police Accountability Board, and we wanted to ensure that we had someone not only that had the time, but had the background and experience, and they checked those boxes off for us.
So I see that a couple of the people that they will be working with are from the National Police Accountability Council. And I'm wondering if there are any other subcontractors. Are there people who come from a public safety background of, officers or otherwise leaders who have had time on the street?
So certainly that's a part of our conversations. We haven't delved down that rabbit hole just as of yet because the contract hasn't been approved. But that's really important for us to have multi-perspectives to ensure that the different stakeholders who are involved, who make up police oversight and police accountability, and that certainly involves officers and those involved in policing.
I think beyond the stakeholder piece, that it would be so helpful to have that, disinterested third party who would bring that kind of public safety expertise to the table.
Agreed.
In the RFP, it was saying that the outreach would be done within a month. Is that a hard deadline of sitting down and getting input over the course of just 1 month?
I know that's very ambitious, but I'm really confident in my community engagement team. I actually take leadership over that team, as I do not have a director right now in place, nor someone who provides oversight and second command. So I'm working directly. And when you see our monthly report, you will see the extensive outreach. This has been a significant shift since I've been there of individuals that they are getting out to in different places in our city. They work incredibly hard. They have great connections. So again, I feel very confident with the team that I have, and these are 2 new hires that will be able to cast that net far and wide so that we can have the different voices reflected and incorporated into the strategic plan.
Because I know certainly, we have so many nonprofits that are working within the city and also doing work, helping with people coming off of probation who are assisting with work and trying to get their first jobs. So we have so many nonprofits that are embedded, and then I think it's very important to reach out to our community groups as well and our neighborhood associations.
I just received that list either yesterday or the day before, so we can make sure that we are connecting with neighborhood associations, and even with smaller organizations like Cameron Ministries, Father Tracy, et cetera. So we're really leaning into this. This is a priority. And again, my hope is once it's approved, this is at the top of our list to move forward as far as a project within our agency.
And then lastly, I appreciate all your responses, but I would have loved and would still have other questions to have this in a work session so we could have more detail. And unfortunately, this came to us a little bit later than the regular packet, and we didn't have the opportunity to have a work session. So when we have our last questioning, I would like to make a motion to see if people would want to hold it in committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Patterson.
So, question for the administration from reviewing some of the documents that were sent over regarding the litigation. Going into court on the 22nd, is that happening, or what's the timeline for this, if you can share that with us?
The return date's been pushed back to early January.
Okay. So really nothing happening regarding the litigation this year. At earliest, like you said, early January.
I would expect that once we have outside counsel on, that there'll be a reach out to representatives of council, PAB, RPD, to sit down and discuss the case. So to the extent that there'll be internal things happening, that may go on in the next couple of months. But yeah, nothing in court until January at the earliest, and there's a chance that even that date gets pushed again.
Okay, so something happens in court in January, and then what happens after something? How does the structure of this legal action work?
So this is a hybrid Article 78 proceeding, which is a summary proceeding, which means that there's no discovery. It's not a long, drawn-out process. Often it's decided just on the papers, but if there are fact issues, the judge may seek a hearing to collect evidence on any disputes of fact. Even if that were to happen, it would happen relatively soon, so I would think that there would be a decision from the court within 6 months of that appearance date.
Okay. So then the question is for you, Dr. Myers, Smalls. What's the thinking around whatever the planning is for what PAB will be strategically going forward, given that you're effectively going to be up in the air for 6 months?
We move forward as status quo, right? So we are going to certainly build contingencies plans and think about what it might look like should they be successful all the way or partially. But we can't, as it relates to starting the strategic plan, we're operating from a place of where we are right now. And I think that's very appropriate.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. So I have 3 statements. The first being an apology to all of council, because I did find out about this Wednesday morning and I could have shared it with all of you. Secondly, there was a meeting between 3 key entities Wednesday morning: corporate counsel and Patrick's team, Chief Smith and his team, and the PAB. It was an extremely positive meeting where we talked about preparing for a smaller group meeting, in which I believe Councilmember Monroe will be a part of, where we can start laying the foundation to move the PAB forward. But it was a great meeting yesterday. My third statement is, given the very distinct roles between the PAB and all they hope to achieve and the Locust Club, this lawsuit is not at all surprising. However, every lawsuit should be taken seriously, but I do hope that moving forward we will handle this in a manner that does not impact the credibility or the great work of the PAB that we have all been seeing lately. And I am in favor, as Dr. Leslie Myers mentioned, moving forward status quo, because whenever there is an issue with the police or the Locust Club, they do not stop the work, but they continue to move forward. And the PAB needs to continue to move forward in the midst of this as best they can, and I am in full support of not holding this in committee, but moving it forward.
Thank you. Thank you for the apology, too. I appreciate that. And thank all of you council members for your statements and comments and questions. And thank you, Dr. Myers Small, for being here and being as transparent as you have been. I am in full support of the leadership that I see here at PAB. You guys know that I've had different positions on PAB over the years, but as the creator, one of the creators, along with my Dr. Gruber of PAB, I am very renewed in my commitment to PAB based on the direction that I've seen PAB moving in, and or the new direction that I'm seeing PAB moving in your lawsuit. I'm reminded of a conversation in a meeting I was in. That was a public meeting, so I think it, because the media was there, so I think it's okay for me to say this. And I saw this coming. And I think I asked that question: what are we going to do when we get to this space when something like this potentially could happen? And the commitment at that table was kind of, we don't kind of know where we'll be, but we hope we can continue to still work together. And we hope that when I saw a stern commitment from PAB to say, hey, we're going to keep forging forward. One of the things that this council has been, the narrative at times has been that this council has been a hindrance to the Police Accountability Board. And I feel going forward, I can't speak for things that have happened in the past, only can speak for what's happening right now. And right now, this community wanted this Police Accountability Board. It's been in court before. Various things have been, they've won in court, they've lost some things in court concerning the Police Accountability. But we can't act as if we've already lost or something has changed, because it has not. That's the process, the due process. So we have to do our due diligence and our due process and making sure that we set up PAB for victory, because that's what the people asked for and what they voted for. So I do not want to hold this item. I would like to move this item forward, and I will entertain conversation from you, Councilmember Monroe.
So I would like to make a motion for this to be held, and there are a couple of reasons here. I started on council in January of this year, so I haven't been a party to everything that's been going on since the start of the PAB. There hasn't been a ton of information. We haven't been having work sessions. Council hasn't had those. So I feel like I'm working in a really muddy space here. I was appointed by the president to the ad hoc committee from council to be working with PAB and the administration, and I was not party to that meeting. I request that it be held so that we do our due diligence, and I, at least, and others may be able to understand more of what's going into this, as it is a nearly $100,000 study.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor for a moment?
Absolutely, Mr. President.
Point of clarification for Corporation Counsel. So if an item is in committee, typically, and in my experience since I've been here, it's at the pleasure of the chair whether or not an item moves forward or is held. Is there a process by which we can hold items in committee through a vote, or is that strictly something that is at the purview of the chair?
I'm not familiar with I think the means to keep it in committee is that the motion to refer it to council as a whole would fail, right? And then it would. So then under that circumstance, if the motion fails in committee, does it just mean it's held in committee then, or does it mean the motion is it fails, period, doesn't get considered again? I think it would be in committee because a committee member could subsequently move for reconsideration of that vote. So it would remain in committee.
Got it. So I think we just vote on the item, and if it passes, it goes to the general meeting. If it fails, it remains in committee. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
All right. Councilman Dr. Gruber, yes, sir.
Thanks. Councilmember Monroe, I appreciate your concern, and it looks like procedurally we're not going to vote on the hold or not, but it also sounds like most council members want to see this move forward. I would just say I think it is very fair for the newest member of this body to feel like there's a million questions around the PAB, and maybe I would just ask Dr. Myers-Small, as we would do with almost any consultant that comes on for any department, if there's going to be an opportunity once the strategic planning process starts to engage council members either in small groups or individually as part of the planning process. That's a practice that would happen usually if there was a big strategic planning process, and hopefully that will make you feel a little bit less blind going through the process, Councilmember Monroe. And all I can say is that after all the work the PAB has done and all the things we've gone through collectively, some strategic planning certainly won't hurt. So I'm looking forward to voting for this to move forward.
And Councilman Monroe, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your position. I really do, and I'm glad that I'm hearing that you're going to be on one of these groups, these small groups already that I'm hearing from Councilmember Smith said that's developing, and so I'm very excited about that as well too. And I realize that you did not have the pleasure of going through a lot of the process, as many of us have in the very beginning. So I just wanted to say I hear you and thank you for all of your input on this. And if this fails, then we'll deal with that. But if not, and going forward, I'm looking forward to you being a part of the process even more intimately than maybe in the past. All right. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Now we vote. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gruber.
Yes.
Councilmember Lightfoot.
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Monroe.
No.
Councilmember Patterson.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Vice President Harris. President Melendez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that is it for our public safety. With no further business to come before the Public Safety Committee, we are adjourned.
Hang on to your seats, folks. We have a special meeting.
All right.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Tonight we are meeting on the act of one item related to the rules of council. The special meeting will come to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Lightfoot.
Present, ma'am.
Councilmember Lupien.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Monroe.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
So I'd like to ask the council, in light of the recent success that we've had surrounding the Rock Against Gun Violence Coalition work that we've been doing, to really highlight and focus on the fact that we still have a lot of work to do. So I'm going to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence related to gun violence in the city of Rochester. Thank you. Councilmember Monroe, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, tonight we have one item, introductory number 450, which is a resolution postponing City Council's November meeting. This legislation amends the rules of council to change a general meeting date from November 19th to November 26th, 2024. So I'd like to make a motion to amend introductory number 450 to revise the calendar.
Move it.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been seconded. Now we vote. All in favor of amending introductory number 450, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we vote on introductory number
Wait,
450.
excuse me, can we have discussion?
Yes. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm moving quickly.
Yeah.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes, so this is something that I've been here for almost 3 years, and it's something that's never been done in my experience. We've never moved a council meeting, like a one where we vote. So to me, it is important to understand why the meeting is moved, in order to understand how we create a policy that allows for some flexibility for various issues that may come up in people's lives. One example when we talked about I gave is some people have had losses in their families, and in those instances, I think it's also important to be able to change the dates if it also works for all of council like it seems to now. So what is the reason for this change?
Certainly. So there's some important legislative items on the agenda for the month of November, and some conflicts related to the general meeting where the vote count might have impacted the way the business moved of the city. So under that circumstance, we decided it would be best to consider moving the meeting to accommodate that need. I think the question around the policy, I mean, certainly if there was a significant circumstance, such as a death in the family or other circumstances that are important enough that a council member needed us to make an accommodation, I think we would consider that. If there's a desire of this body to have some kind of internal conversation about a policy related to that, I'm open to that. If someone wanted to put a suggestion in writing, I'm open to that, but that is the general reason.
So just to be clear, the reason is because of a vote count? That's what you said. I just want to clarify, and I really
Conflicts.
need
The reason is
understanding.
conflicts with the date.
Could you share like what conflicts mean? Is it health? Is it, without going into details, is it work conflict? Like, what does it mean? And without us knowing that, how could we create a policy based on this change happening? So what I've heard so far is conflict and vote counts. I mean, that's not substantial. That's not a substantive reason for me to sit here and say, I'm going to support this because of a conflict. Like, we all have conflicts that we make work. I know you're extremely busy. Many of us are also. So I really need to understand why. Conflict is just not enough. Like, what is going on?
I don't know how else to answer it other than there's at least 2 members of council that can't make the meeting.
And the reason is just conflict.
Conflicts with the date, yes.
Okay, so moving forward, so this opens up a custom essentially, right? Anyone can say, I have a conflict, so we should be able to move the meeting. Or in addition, so there are 2 members who can't make it, right? But that means there are 7 others who can. So because of 2 members with a conflict that they have not expressed what that conflict is, we're going to move a whole entire meeting. Like, that's what's being said, and I think we just need to clarify it on the record and hopefully apply that same logic to future conflicts that arise, right?
If it is the desire of council to have this conversation, we can have a conversation around the policy and the future of it, but
Yeah, absolutely. I just really think it's important to be transparent about these things and just, like, we can't just make rules because they fit us or our situation. Rules have to be applicable to all of us to be equitable. So I saw someone else's hand up, so I'll yield.
Councilmember Gruber.
Just for clarity, are the people, I know that you are one, are the people missing the meeting president and vice president? Is that the reason for this?
So I am missing the 19th date, yes. And there was another council member that had a conference that they were attending.
But my question is it the president and the vice president?
I don't believe that's the case.
Okay, because that would be a response to the council member's perspective, is if it was president and vice president. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say, Councilmember Martin, about the best way to do this, but certainly the goal is for us to have a set schedule, which we all work on together. And to your point, I've been on council for 7 years. I think this is probably the first or second. Maybe we had one other special meeting in my time here. So I think it's a rare occurrence, but we also don't want to have less than 8. I mean, we really don't want to have less than 9 council members at a meeting. So I suppose the reason is if we know for sure there's going to be less than 9 or 8 council members at a meeting, that we should make sure to get on the same page and make sure attendance is right. I mean, we can create a reality like that. When I don't know if you're referring to me before, I had a death in the family, so I missed a council meeting a while ago. Obviously, I wouldn't have known that at the beginning of the month that I was going to have a death in the family on that particular time. So if we have the ability to do a quick swap so that we can have all 9 people there, we should do it. And if we can't, then we can't. Absolutely.
And I think, so your analysis, like, I agree with it. And I think my issue is, like, there hasn't been transparency about who's going to be missing the meeting or the reason, right? Just a conflict. Like, when you shared that you weren't going to make it, you shared why. When Councilmember Smith wasn't going to be able to make it, she shared why. We've also moved forward with meetings where there are 7 and 8 people. I've been in extremely dire situations where I've needed support and meetings be moved. The rules I'm seeing be applied to whoever is going to miss the meeting are not equitably applied to all of us, is what I'm saying. And I think without knowing why, from here on out, we can just say 2 people have a conflict, so we should move the meeting. That's the only way I feel like it can be fairly applied.
But I don't know and I'm not asking and don't want to know what the dire situations were. But if it's the morning of or the day or even 3 days before the dire situation won't be able to be here, you see the process we're in right now to change the meeting schedule. We're changing the meeting schedule 3 weeks in advance. We have not only the public notifications, but we have the entire administration who has to be here for us. We can't change schedules on a dime.
Absolutely.
If there's something, if you know today you can't be here for the December meeting and there's multiple council members who can't be there, we should make a commitment to try to change it. That should always be the case.
Okay, I'm saying it should, but it hasn't been applied, right? Even with adequate notice, like months in advance, that hasn't necessarily been afforded to me, right? So I think if we can all agree that moving forward, we don't have to say the reason. We don't have to say it's because of health, it's because of school, it's because of work, it's because of, we don't have to say the reason, right? We just say conflict, right? That's what the president is saying. I have a conflict, I'm not willing to share. The other reason is someone has to attend a conference, and that's why they can't be here. So conflict and conferences now are two reasons we can say are valid to allow for consideration of changing a meeting. President?
I wouldn't say that I'm agreeing with that. I think that we have two people who are missing a meeting. I would not say that if there is a single person who's going to miss a meeting for a reason that comes up, that we should postpone and cancel or cancel the meeting. I think that at the end of the day, 7 council members, I mean, there are some items that require 6 votes. Having 7 council members is problematic in a different way than I think having 8 is. So I'm vote the way you want to vote on this. I'm just saying I'm not agreeing with the statement that you just made. We're not being asked to vote on it. I just want you to know how I feel about that.
Right. So President Melendez, in the future, if at least 2 council members have a reason why they can't attend, they can just say conflict. Are you going to be willing to initiate a process similar to what was initiated where staff texted, asked around what availability was, just conflict? Are you going to be willing to work with staff to enact a policy that says if 2 or more people have a conflict, we can look to reschedule the meeting? Because that's what's happening now. 2 people have a conflict.
Yes, so before I answer that, I'm going to go to Councilmember Patterson.
Thank you. So we have, I just don't remember us ever changing a meeting date. It might have happened before, but it is such a one-off that we don't need a policy. Because to your point, Councilmember Martin, you've been here almost 4 years, and it ain't happened. Okay, 3, going on 4. We've been here, Councilmember Gruber and Councilmember Lightfoot, we're probably old people on council. I don't remember the last time we changed a meeting date. Okay. This instance is a one-off. I don't think we need a policy for a one-off. I think we just need to vote on whether we're not going to change the date or not. If we change the date, we change the date. We don't need a policy for whether or not we're going to change this date. If it comes up again or it starts to become a regular routine thing, then we need to have a conversation. But historically, this body does not change the dates. We just have them and we roll and we get it done. I see this as a one-off. It is not a reason for a huge, monstrous policy change. It's a vote. Either we change the date or we don't.
I appreciate your insight, Councilmember Patterson, but without a policy, certain people, based on their positions, like the president, can just do whatever. There's no rule, and it's so confusing and hard to anticipate what's possible and what's not possible without a policy.
Actually,
I didn't know this was I didn't know you could just have a conflict or have to go to a conference and that could be a valid reason for moving a meeting. I didn't know that. So I'm not saying it should never happen. I'm just saying if it's possible for 1 or 2 people, it should be possible for every single member on council. That is all I'm saying. And we're able to make that possible through the enactment of a policy.
And I'm saying we don't need a policy because this is a one-off. So we just need to vote on whether we are going to do this instance. I think, council member, you've clearly expressed your position. You've been heard. And if council members agree with it, then they vote no. If council members agree with your position, I think it's simple. You just vote no, we have the meeting, and that's the end of it. If you believe that, in fact, it's a one-off and it's not, and we can just have a meeting on another day, then we can. And I think one of the things that's really key here is that we are working within the structure and the format of our rules. There's a way to change a date. We are following that process and that procedure. And quite frankly, even with the notification, this item could still fail. So there's no guarantee that it's going to happen, even if you follow the process and the procedure. And that's all you can ever ask for. And that just comes down to whether or not you get 5 votes for the issue at hand.
All right, so before we move to a vote on this, I mean, the way I look at this is a request was made. It's up to council to decide. You know, there's been a couple weeks of this being a conversation, and this is the first time this is coming up as a major issue. I feel like it's lights, cameras, action on the floor.
It's really not, because I emailed you. I definitely emailed you, and we had a phone conversation about it. So you're giving lights, camera, action. Like, you want to be snarky and rude, and you don't have to be. We are allowed to have debates, and you took it there.
Councilmember Martin, I heard you, and I listened, and I appreciate if you would give me an opportunity to also address this. So I think that if there is accommodations that need to happen in the future, it would be the same process. If there was a challenge where there was multiple council members that couldn't make a meeting and we felt it was going to be problematic to the body and to the business of the city of Rochester, then we would make that consideration. But since I've been on council, this is the only time that this has happened. And, you know, so look, everyone up here has at some point in time missed a meeting and the business has moved forward. But when it comes to 2 people missing at the same time, that's when this became a consideration. So with that, I'm going to move introductory number 450 to a vote, and we'll do a roll call. Oh, we had a motion. Did we have a motion and a second on the item? Let's just move it. It's been moved? Second. It's been seconded. All right, so then we'll vote on introductory number 450, roll call.
Mr. President, I believe there's an amendment.
We amended already.
You did already, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Gruber?
Yes.
Councilmember Lightfoot?
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien? Councilmember Martin?
So based on the president's statements that in the future we will be enacting a policy where there will be consideration if issues come up, I will be supporting it, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll be clear, I did not say we're enacting a policy.
You just said we will consider.
Whenever this comes up, this is the policy. This is the standard practice in the process. If there is an issue, it is considered as it comes.
So you just said this is the policy, this is the standard practice and procedure, and we'll consider it as it comes, right? So it's, I mean, just to clear, I mean, this is on the record, so we can go back and look at it and put something in writing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So I will be supporting it. I appreciate everyone's input. Thank you.
So yes. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Monroe?
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Vice President Harris?
Yes.
President Melendez?
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion carries. With no further business, we stand adjourned.